for joining our second PyData Turkiye conference. So my name is Furkan. I am working as a software engineer at EPAM. I'm also a volunteer in PyData Turkiye community. So our community was established last year. So this is our second yearly event. We want to make this event a yearly tradition where we can share ideas and connect to each other and grow the community and everyone together. And apart from the annual conferences, we also organize meetups throughout the year. That's why so you can stay updated to our events in the meetup page or in our LinkedIn group. And there will be links in the chat so that you can quickly join our channels to inform about our events. Before we start, I would like to say a thank you to our sponsors, EPAM and Non-Focus. So thanks to their support, these events are possible. I also want to mention that EPAM Turkey is actively hiring for the various roles. And there will be a link in the chat, so please check it out if you're interested. And today we have three valuable speakers. Each of them will be covering some interesting topics. And there will be a Q&A sessions after each talk. You can send your questions during the talks in the chat or in the Q&A session. Our speakers will be answering them after their talks finishes. And our first speaker is Seniz. So without taking not too much time, I would like to give stage to Seniz.
Thank you very much, Furkan. Hi everyone, I am Seniz and it's great to be here with this community. I actually ended up in AI completely by accident. At the first day of my university, I walked into the wrong university classroom and it happened to be an artificial intelligence class. At that time, artificial intelligence was not so popular, but I stayed in the classroom and that mistake shaped my entire career. Since then, I have spent 2 decades building data warehouses and AI systems for 2 major banks and one of the largest telecom companies in Turkey. I have seen AI evolve from simple rule-based systems to multimodal and agentic systems we are designing today. And now, as a data and AI strategist and board member at AIATUS AI, which is an innovative AI company, we are helping organizations move from automation to understanding, from outputs to intention. And now I would like also to share my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
And today I want to talk about a shift happening in AI that goes far beyond generation. We are moving systems that are creating answers to systems that can perceive, act, and understand. This shift, multimodal intelligence and agentic intelligence, will shape the next decade of artificial intelligence. So today I want to explore what it means for all of us. We all know about generative AI. It started nearly 4 or 5 years ago with OpenAI. And generative AI changed how we create, code, design, and communicate. It gave us fluency, but not understanding. It automated production, but not perception. These limitations of generative AI pushed us forward. It showed us that the real leap in AI is not about generating more, but it's about understanding more. Multimodal AI gives machines something close to digital senses. It integrates text, image, audio, and context. These systems see, hear, understand, and also interpret the world. Meaning doesn't come from one dimension. It comes from how modalities combine into context. And once a system understands context, it can begin to take initiative rather than waiting for instructions. Agentic AI, which is very popular nowadays, is the move from reaction to initiative. These systems can set goals, plan actions, execute, monitor outcomes, and refine themselves. This is really a fundamental shift. A shift from responding to behaving. A shift from output generation to goal-driven action. And behavior requires intention, which brings us to the meaning challenge. And what is that challenge? That challenge is related with technology evolving very quickly and understanding evolving slowly compared to the technology. The biggest challenge today is not about computational power, but it is interpretive and it is sense making. We build systems that generate outputs, but not systems that understand the meaning. So we have to ask, can intelligence exist without intention? And if the answer is no, then how do we design systems that understand context and purpose? At AIATUS AI, we built an AI-powered agentic email system for our customers, which seems simple, but it behaves like an agent. It doesn't just label the messages. It doesn't just classify it. It interprets intent and initiates action. Once it understands customer's goal, it chooses the right action, starts the right conversation, and learns from the result. This is not anymore automation. This is purpose-driven intelligence. Our WhatsApp personalization engine, which runs for our several customers, goes even further. It unifies signals from every channel: voice, email, text, past behavior, timing. And from all this information, it generates right message, right visual, and right tone for each individual. At the old days, it was segmentations, but now with multimodality, it's not segmentation anymore. This is individual meaning modeling. It is personalization that adapts emotion, context, and intention. And now, when we come to the skills that we are discussing very much nowadays, the skills that matter in this new era are completely different. And I have an article about this issue, which you can also reach from my LinkedIn page. And what are the most important skills in this new era are creative synthesis, algorithmic reasoning, context design, and empathic collaboration, which is guiding AI with clarity and human values. I know that here are many coders, but I would like to say that the future doesn't belong to coders. It will belong to sense makers. And also I see coders as sense makers. And I can say that these skills are deeply human. Yes, AI accelerates, but we human beings are creating the direction. Leadership is also being redefined. In the agentic era, awareness matters more than authority, and coordination also is more important than control. Yes, in the old days, mentorship is also very important, but now it's much more important because AI doesn't need managers, but it needs people that guides it. And in the age of agentic AI, leadership is the art of guiding minds, both human and artificial, into meaningful alignment. It's clear that we are all sure that AI will keep becoming more multimodal, more autonomous, and more agentic. But the real frontier is about meaning. Systems that not only act, but understand why they act. This is the real frontier for the future. The future of AI isn't smarter machines, but it is wiser systems. Systems that can interpret, align, and act with purpose. And shaping that future starts with us, this room, this community. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation, Seniz. So,
Thank you. And if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer.
yeah, I have a question. Uh, I would like to ask your opinion about. So, do you think in the future, in the near future, these models, that is there going to be a single model that will be specialized in everything, or are we going to see more specialized smaller models for specific tasks that is only responsible for specific tasks in our
I
flows?
think, in the generative AI, we are also working on fine tuning. We have many fine-tuned model as at AIATUS AI. And Furkan, we believe that there will be different models, different modes in multimodal, different modalities that will be working together harmoniously, but which will be experienced in one subject. This is what I believe and what we believe in AIATUS AI.
Mhm. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, is there any other question? You can send your questions in the chat or.
You can reach me whenever you want from my email or LinkedIn account. And to apply AIATUS AI, also you can send your CVs to info@aiatus.com.
Mhm.
If you would
Okay.
like to shape your future with us, please send your CV.
Okay. There's one more question.
Okay, thank you very
Has,
much.
there's one more question, Sheniz, if you have time.
Okay, okay.
Hassan is asking, he says he missed the part. If not the engineer will lead the future, but who? Uh,
No, I
can you
didn't
explain
mean.
more detail, please?
Yeah, I didn't mean that the engineers won't lead. Of course, engineers will lead the future. But by aligning AI and with different skills, they will guide the AI. Maybe codes will be written by AI, but we will need creative thinkers to guide the AI. And engineers will evolve in that way.
Mhm. From more technical to more creative side, I guess.
Yeah, creative, algorithmic reasoning, empathic thinking. These are very valuable skills. And of course, coding is important, but this will be much more important, which I thought is sense making.
Yeah, definitely. So you also mentioned about the importance of personalization. I guess you already working on in your company for
Yes,
different projects. So we have a speaker also, Emre Okçular from OpenAI. He's also going to talk about the context engineering, which is actually the technical side of this,
yes.
how to personalize these agents and how to optimize them for our purposes.
Yes, I think this will also be the feature. We are moving from the old kind of segmentations to context-aware segmentations, which we are working on that also.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. One more question, Çağla is asking. How can we prevent creativity lost while leaning on the AI usage that much?
Yes, I think creativity is something different. We can use AI and we should use AI, by the way, but we should ask questions, not just doing what it says. Asking questions and creative thinking. And also by learning, I think learning is very important, curiosity. And if we keep going asking questions with curiosity, our creativity also will develop. This is what I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I think not the leaning on AI in the creative side will not will prevent
Mm,
that loss.
No,
Because
no. I think, yes, we should use AI, but there can be some kind of hallucinations or something that it doesn't understand why. So device side is still belongs to human beings. And this is why we should use our creative sides more and algorithmic reasoning. This is why these skills are important.
yeah, definitely.
You,
Also,
yeah.
sorry, Hasan, please go.
No, you can go question, then I will ask the next question.
I will also going to mention that in your slides you mentioned the multimodality. I think
Yeah.
as the multimodal modality increases the reasoning, I don't know if there's any dependency. I also check it before in from the human perspective. In the human perspective, if someone loses their visioning, the IQ doesn't change according to the researches. But I think I don't know if but as is in these models as the multimodality increases, it looks to me that the reasoning also increases.
Yeah, this is how reasoning will be increased. We have started the multimodality 5 years ago, by the way, but now it's very much developed and it still develops, but it needs also to be controlled by human beings.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Okay, my last question is I mean, sorry, I didn't Google what AI AIATUS doing, but I believe some maybe kind of consultancy firm or some firm which doing AI to the other firms, etc., etc. But what I see, there were some research from the worldwide, 80% of AI projects are failing, or I mean, failing mean not in sense of bringing outcome what they are looking for, but failing in sense of what they spend the time on AI, and then the output is still more costly than neither human being, or still not as expected working. So based on your experience, is there some currently working solution which already
Yes.
can solve people a place? Could you explain what
Yes. I think this is a very good question, by the way. The reason that much of the projects are failed is because AI is something not just technological, it's business also. So if you do an AI project without understanding the business need or business strategy, then you fail. It's a given. So to an AI project to be successful, it's so important that it starts from business need. You understand business need, you develop the technology, and then you integrate it into the solution. AIATUS is a company that are building solutions, AI products. And this is why now I am at AIATUS, because I am helping them to understand the business perspective. Because I really believe in that if business and technology comes together, then there won't be any limitation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. The understanding the connection between the business problems and these AI models is so critical. I think it might maybe biggest contributor if the project will be successful or not.
And
Onur,
also, just one thing to add, it's also about the big organizations. There are different departments, they are working isolatedly, and each of them just is working on their own subject. But AI is something different, and multimodality, it's important that also the employees also understand from different kind of perspectives. For example, think about a doctor, because AI will be shifting also their work. But doctors are very far from AI, and AI engineers are very far from what they are doing. So if you match both of them, you can produce more successful products.
definitely. Onur has a questions from the chat. He said I think from the economical perspective, he said that he usually use AI for generating image and video. So he said they generally require payment. He asked if you think that there going to be a point in the future where AI will be usually free.
I am not sure, because there is an AI Act, and these images, maybe it won't be so easy to produce them legally in the future. But of course, building these features, images with AI helps companies. But another thing is that these images shouldn't be the same for all the companies, because companies have different, how I can say, segments and beliefs and other things. So images should differ according to their, how I can say, let me say in Turkish, marka. It should change according to their markas, which now everyone is producing the same kind of image.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
unifying.
authenticity is important, which next year it will be really a trend, using AI with authenticity. And also responsibly will be very important.
What do you mean by authenticity, Seniz?
Let me explain in Turkish, sorry.
Evet.
Bir markayı düşünelim. Think about a marka, a company. It has its own customer segments, values, how I can say, also positioning. And AI should be, how I can say, used in a way that it will be authentic, that describes that company. So it should be fine-tuned models, not the generalized models, the question that you ask me.
Mhm. Got it. Specialized and personalized according to
Yeah, and
reflect what it is behind.
this is called authenticity.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay. Any other question? So Hasan sent the image from chat. It's from airport, like airport, he says. He says they have AI assistants in airports. You can go and ask questions.
Very good.
Okay. I think we don't have any another question. Seniz, thank you for joining our session and bringing these ideas. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much for inviting me.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Uh,
Yep, thank you, Furkan. Thank you again, Miss Seniz. Let's check Mustafa here. Like our second topic will be from Mustafa. If you are ready, you can start sharing your screen and yeah, start, Mustafa.
Hello, hello, sure. Wait me for a second. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mustafa.
You can see me, right?
Yep, you're visible.
Yes.
Perfect, thanks. I'll share my screen. Hope you can see my screen as well.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, let's start with our presentation directly. Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to today's workshop and speech on data unification. And I'm really excited to be here with you today, since we are going to tackle on one of the most challenging, actually, to be honest, one of the most underestimated problems in modern data engineering. And how do you take data from multiple different sources and merge them into a single, unified, and more importantly, trustworthy data sets? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking about this. This sounds like a simple ETL problem. Just load the data and join these tables, different tables, in together. And if only it were that simple, that would be okay. But the reality is, data unification problem is far more complex than traditional ETL pipelines. And today, we're going to explore why that is and more importantly, how to solve it. And by the end of this speech, the presentation, you will have almost hands-on experience building two real-world data unification pipelines, and you'll understand the techniques, the pitfalls, and the best practices. At least I have tried those best practices, and that separate a fragile data pipeline from a production-grade system. And before deep diving, let me introduce myself. I'm Mustafa, a senior data engineer at EPAM, and I have more than 6 years experience in data engineering, software development, like algorithm, data structures. And I have started in early stages startups and then move on to OpenAI for training ChatGPT 4 model. And then I have moved on a venture capital firm in Dubai, and there we have created a project about data unification for companies, and we have conducted a lot of research, academic research and project-based research about data unification. And then I moved to EPAM, and I'm not now working as a data engineer at EPAM. Let's start with a question. Actually, a fundamental question. What is data unification, and what problem are we trying to solve here? Let's imagine you are working at a company that wants to build a complete view of your customers, but all your customers. And it sounds simple, but here is the reality. You have different teams communicating with your customers, and they are using different tools for storing those customer data. For example, your marketing team has customer data in Salesforce. Your product team has user data in your application database, Postgres, MySQL, MS SQL. You can select it. And your support team has customer records in Zendesk or whatever you use. And your finance team, for example, has billing information in Stripe. These are all different data sources. And each of these systems, you have a different schema. Each one calls the same customer by slightly different names, and each one has different email addresses, different IDs, different levels of data quality, and different schemas. And here we can define it like data unification is the process of taking these heterogeneous sources. These are different sources, and these are asymmetric, and creating a single unified, this is the keyword by the way, unified view of each entity, in this case, each customer. But in general, we will name it as entity because the problem has a different name like entity resolution. That will be important in our next stages. Here's the key insight. I have conducted different data unification projects, and I can say about in real-time projects, this isn't just about moving data from point A to point B. I'm ingesting data from API. That's okay. Like for example, LinkedIn has a agreement with Core Signal, and Core Signal has a good API about providing different schemas about different companies, different employees, different projects, different events, etc. But this is not just loading, transforming, moving. These are basic terms in data engineering. That's okay, but it's about answering three fundamental questions. First, which records represent the same real-world entity? For example, let's say we are conducting a data unification project about companies, okay? You should find different definitions of companies because you can just think of, for example, OpenAI is a company or Tesla is a company. These are okay, but if you are a individual startup with just one person, or you can just be like a confidential firm, or you can just initiate your firm, and there are different people, and you have a domain, but you don't have any name. But you are already a company. We should somehow define the entity. What is the entity? And for example, is John Smith in Salesforce the same person as J. Smith in your database? This is the main problem, actually. And the second problem, when sources disagree, which one is correct? Like if Salesforce says a customer is in New York, the location is in New York, but your app says California, which do you trust? Which one will you choose about this is the correct entity and this is the correct information, like trustiness? It's a business term, but here in the technical perspective, we can just consider it like a correctness of the attribute, like columns in the database. And which will do you trust? This is the important part. And the third question, how do you maintain this unified view over time? Because your almost all databases or data ingestion systems has different schema evaluation standards. That's why you need to define a standard for these schema changes. As schema change, as new sources are added, you can just add new database. Or as data drifts, like how do you keep everything consistent? This is the consistency question, but we will talk about it later. These questions are at the heart of the data unification projects, and they are what we'll be solving today. The second part, what are the challenges? What should we consider about those challenges? Let's talk about why this is so hard. What are the challenges we need to consider about data unification project? This part is important because right now you can use Augment, you can use Copilot, you can use GPT or different AI tools for ingesting the data and creating a robust pipeline for whole data engineering process, data unification projects. But you need to know the philosophy here. And this part is the philosophy itself, okay? For example, first one, Schema challenges. You have different sources, and those different sources have completely different schemas. Like one system might have first name, this is an example column, and last name, this is another example column, as separate fields. And another might just have full name, like first name and second name, but full name. A third database might have display name or legal name, like here, I'm Mustafa. I can like have different names in the database, and which should I like consider as a correct name? Schema heterogeneity, this is named. You need to normalize all of these into a common schema. And that's not just a technical mapping exercise. It requires understanding the semantics of each field. This is not a difficult practice, since you have the business perspective already about about the data you're dealing with, but you need to know semantic perspective of those fields. Okay. And the second part, entity resolution. This is the big one, actually. How do you know when two records represent the same real-world entity? For example, you have a company database, and it says Tesla. It has a domain field, and there are different rows, different entities maybe, with domains tesla.xyz, tesla.com, tesla.abc. Which one is the correct Tesla? How do you know when two records represent the same real-world entity? Sometimes it's obvious. If two records have the exact same email address or domain, they are probably the same person. We have two different rows, and both rows include tesla.xyz, tesla.xyz. And if two records have the exact same domains, but they're probably the same company. But what about OpenAI versus OpenAI Inc. Incorporated versus OpenAI, directly OpenAI, or OpenEmpty space AI, because there can be a lot of different companies with the same name, or an email you can just consider john.doe@company.com versus jdoe at company.com. These are the same person actually. And a company founded in 2015 in one source and 2016 in another. There can be situations like this, and you need sophisticated matching techniques for this that go beyond simple equality checks. You can just check if this is equal to the other database attribute, that's okay. This is the basic equality check. But you need to improve your perspective, your approach about finding those entities. And the third one, conflicting truths. Here's a scenario. And it happens actually all the time. You're merging employee data from your HR system and your IT system, and HR says an employee was terminated last month, but IT shows they logged in yesterday. Both systems are telling you their truth, but they conflict. And what do you do? What would you do if you experience like this? And this is where you need conflict resolution strategies. And there is no one size fits all answer. It depends on your business context, your data quality, and your use cases. These are important looking angles for the data engineering concepts and data unification project. And the next one, schema evaluation. You have already worked with those different data sources or schema evaluations, and schemas don't stay static. They're dynamic. Systems get upgraded, new fields are added, old fields are depreciated, or your unification pipeline needs to handle this gracefully without breaking. And another consideration about scale and performance. This is about the engineering perspective, because whatever you have a project about data, it's not important whether it's data unification or not, but you need to consider scale and performance. But here in data unification project, you have a different case, like when you're comparing every record against every other record to find matches. Like what amount you will have? Let's say you have 1 million rows in a table, and you have one row in other table. That will be just 1 million comparison, like this, 1 million, 1. I'm just checking equalities. But if you have 1 million with 100, it will increase exponentially. That's why scaling and performance like really matters in those projects. The computational complexity explodes. And like in OpenAI and in the venture capital firm, we have data unification projects. We have experienced a lot of different GPU and CPU problems, and we cannot find any machine in GCP, in AWS, in Azure, and we need to recreate and reproduce our machines, devices, like those RAMs, again and again for handling those matches, those equality checks. But this is not the case. This is very basic, and we are engineer. We need to find different solutions, different approaches. This is the creativity perspective in the data unification project. That's why I think you will. I think you will enjoy about this part. Okay, you need smart strategies, blocking, indexing, incremental processing to make this work at a scale. Perfect. We can go to pipeline. You like the pipeline? I know it. How do we actually solve this? Let me walk you through the general architecture of a data unification pipeline. The first one, ingested. We need data. We need data to handle unification or just matching those different entities. First, you are ingesting data from all your sources. You need to define your sources and ingest data from all your sources. This is a standard ETL function, like extract the data and load it into your processing environment. And the second one, schema normalization. You transform each source into a common intermediate schema. This is where you map like first name plus last name to full name and normalize data formats, standardized country codes, and so on. And I know you know about like in almost all artificial intelligence projects, RAG projects, or just LLM projects, you need to standardize your data. You should reproduce your model. And more important, much more important than the model itself, you need to find the good data that represents your training models. That's why this is the part we have, like the normalization becomes like most important, and the EDA, actually, exploratory data analysis part, is the most important stage in the whole pipeline. You need to standardize country codes. You need to normalize date formats. And this is actually a problem with a history and like a human kind history. In like BC 100, we didn't have any like date formats. And now we are actually don't have a standard date time formats. In Germany, it's different. In US, it's different. In Turkey, it's different. That's why you need to somehow standardize those formats and so on. The key here is to create a schema. You need to create a single schema for the whole data you want to define and you want to demonstrate. For example, a company will have a headquarters city, headquarters like starting time, or employee number, or name, or domain, email. These are demonstrating the company itself. That's okay. The key about creating a schema that captures the union of all important fields. You can select the importance here. I cannot like anyone can define about the columns or like those entities fields, but you need to know what is important for those fields across all sources while being flexible enough to handle missing data. And candidate generation. Here, the candidate generation actually is another name of entity resolution techniques. This is the heart of the pipeline because you compare records across sources to determine which ones represent the same entity. What is the same entity? You will typically use a combination of deterministic rules. You can say just, if I have this, you can select this for like deterministic rule. Exact matches on strong identifiers like email or domain. But this is mostly not a good approach because we can have an idea, a knowledge of mathematics, probability. That's why we are using probabilistic matching, like fuzzy matching, using similarity scores on names, addresses, dates. We are defining different similarity scores, like weights in LLM models, in neural networks. We have different weights, and here again we have probabilistic methods, and we have different weights for each attribute one by one. The output should be a set of match decisions with confidence scores. You have similarity scoring, and this is another name of confidence scores. Let's go with the conflict resolution. You resolve entity, that's okay, but now you need to resolve conflicts. When you have identified that two records are the same entity, but they have conflicting data, you need to resolve those conflicts. Common strategies would include source hierarchy, trust HR over IT for employment status, for example, or recency, like which data is more recent. Use the most recent value. And third one, precision. Prefer 1,800 employees over 1 billion, or vice versa. You can define a precision metric for here. And the fourth one, union. You need to combine tags or categories from all those sources. And step 5 here, merge and create golden records. This is the name, golden records. This is the terminology. Finally, you merge all the matched records into a single golden table, golden record for each entity. And this golden record becomes your source of truth. This is the business terminology, but we are here about like technical perspective. Critically, you maintain provenance, like you track which source contributed to which field, what the confidence source scores were, and when the merge happened. Then you can move on to the next part, quality assurance. You validate the output, okay, with data quality checks, just CI/CD checks or schema test, business rule validation, and this is not a one-time process. It's a continuous loop. As new data arrives, you rerun the pipeline and update your golden records. But if you rerun the whole pipeline again and again, you will run the machine like a huge machine, high computational machines, again and again, and it would be very, very costly. And this is like a one-time process. It's a continuous loop. That's why you need to handle those CI/CD parts. And maybe we can continue with the key concepts deep dive here. Before we jump into the case studies, I want to highlight a few critical concepts that will make or break your unification project. But before deep dive into those case studies and the key concepts, do you have any question to me right now? So far, is it all clear? Because understanding the problem will be very important about the solution.
There is one question, I can phrase it like Furkan asked, like I couldn't fully understand. How could you explain? How similar scoring works and what is the purpose of it? Like,
yeah, I can say it. If you have two different matchings, for example, you have like I want to look at the different participants, and I'll select one. Let's say NS Bursa. And we need to define somehow the attendees here, the participants here. And if NS will join here with different names again and again, NS Bursa or NS, if he has different names like NS Mahir Bursa, NS Mustafa Bursa, we need to define somehow NS is not the same entity with Anastasia, and here the similarity score with like between NS and Anastasia will be very low, and we can just say NS is a different entity from Anastasia. But if we have NS Bursa and NS Mahir Bursa, probably we will have a similarity score like 70%, and we need to decide on the 70% similarity score is enough for deciding an entity if it's an entity or not. Like this, the similarity score means about the like similarity between different entities.
This decision making is human made, or?
Thank you for the question, by the way. This is actually about the strategy you select. If you select a deterministic methodology, it is about like just a human decision, because you're just saying if you have this record, if you have this matching, you can go with the similarity, or you can go with the yes, they're same entity. But if you are using probabilistic methodology, you need to define somehow mathematical rules. You need to explicitly understand which score is equal to like which semantic similarity. And it's probably again about like human perspective, but you can just give it to the like machine, or you can just write a basic ML model about decision making about the similarity scores.
Because you mentioned, I asked this question because you previously mentioned that the learning process is a one-time event, as in it's way too costly to do this recurrently. And I was just wondering who is, defining the base, the stats.
That's perfect. That's a perfect question. If you train a machine learning model here to give decision making to the model, you need to understand your training data, and you need to deep dive into those data matches one by one with a human perspective. You can just maybe hire different data analysis people for understanding the matches and say, yes, these are the same entity. No, these are not same entity. But if you want to have a different methodology, like a mathematical rule set, like a probabilistic methodology, here you need to just define different weights. That's why you don't need to train the system again and again, because you are just comparing different entities or different rows here with just columns, one by one. These are the comparisons, not 1 million over 1 million. This is just one by one.
So it's not reinforcement learning. It's.
I need to explain here. If you are using machine learning models for deciding the entity resolution, it's like a reinforcement learning. But if you are using a different methodology, like statistical methodology for determining the entity, you need to just define different weights, but you can use again reinforcement for those weight definitions. This is
Okay,
up to
thank
you
you.
and the project. This is up to you and the project, Mihail. Thank you for the question. If it's clear, I will go with the...
Mustafa, may I ask last question?
Yeah, please.
So are you using a reinforcement learning for for the weights for the different columns.
To
So
be honest,
giving weight.
yeah, I will be honest about this. Sometimes it's a dream, like using machine learning models in each steps, and we tried it, but it is giving a very unlogical weights. Like somehow it is going to the biased version of those data. That's why we are not in general using reinforcement for learning for those weights. We are just defining them in person. But if you are just creating a CI/CD pipeline and you have stand up like your data unification project, and you need to just define a methodology for updating the weights with the new data coming from the schema evaluation or new additions, you can just define a reinforcement learning for those trainings for the weight definitions.
Yeah, it makes sense. In this case, you are just using the business understanding of humans. They just look at give the weight and then continue, right?
Yes. Actually, we have different methods, but I will show them in the case studies. There are some easy methods for those.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Then I will before I will go to the case studies, we jump into those practical studies. I want to highlight a few critical points and critical concepts that will make or break your unification project. First, defining the entity. We all understand this. What is your entity? You need to define the single most important decision you will make. And this sounds obvious, but it's surprisingly subtle. For a company database, is your entity a legal business entity, a brand, a subsidiary, a product line? Like in Turkey, we have a lot of different like brands and subsidiaries in chocolate firms. You can just consider them. And for employees, is your entity a person who might have multiple roles, a job position, or a contract with people? Get this wrong, and your entire unification logic falls apart. You'll either merge things that shouldn't be merged or fail to merge things that should be. My advice here, start by clearly defining what one row in your final unified dataset represents. You can just go to the end of your project before starting. This is a like reverse engineering perspective, but this is a key advice. Write it down, your final data set, what it looks like, and get stakeholder agreements. Everything else flows from this. And the second concept, like you need to choose between deterministic versus probabilistic resolution. Because deterministic resolution uses exact matching on reliable identifiers. If you have same domain name, you can go with the same company. And this gives you high precision but low recall. Recall point. You will miss fuzzy matches. And probabilistic resolution uses similarity scoring across multiple features. For example, you can say name similarity will be 95%. Location match will be 80%. Founded year proximity or weighted score is 89%. It's above the threshold and match. That's okay. This gives you higher recall, but requires careful threshold tuning to maintain precision. And the Furkan's question is coming in here. You need to conduct fine tuning about those threshold creation. The best approach, use both. Start with deterministic rules for high confidence. Then fall back to probabilistic matching for the rest, because I don't want to explain these steps like a rocket job, like an astronaut job. Here we are just going step by step. And in the first step, you have defined entity. And the second step, you need somehow like a treasure hunt. This is a treasure hunt. You need to find the tip. That's why you can just start with deterministic rules for high confidence. You will find different matches and you can just compare those matches between them and fall back to probabilistic matching for the rest. And the third concept I would like to emphasize. Let me give you a real example from one of our case studies today. You are merging company data from Crunchbase and LinkedIn, and Crunchbase says the company has 1,000 employees, and LinkedIn says it's about this is the important thing. It's about between 500 and 1,500. Which is correct? Well, LinkedIn's value is more like not more precise, and the number falls within the LinkedIn's range. Like, so we prefer LinkedIn's value or Crunchbase value. You can select it. Well, what if they didn't overlap? What if Crunchbase said a range starting from 1,000 to 5,000, and LinkedIn said 20,000? Now you have a real conflict, and we have realized it. We have experienced it. You need to flag it. Just flag it, and check which source is more recent, and then look at historical trends. Potentially keep both values with confidence scores. And the key principle I would like to advise about, there often isn't one correct truth. Your job is to make the best decision given the available evidence and document with why you made that decision. You can change later, but you should decide on something, document it, and look at it later. Fourth concept, provenance is everything. Never, ever lose track of where your data came from. For every field in your golden record, you should be able to answer which source did this value come from? Or when was it ingested? What was the confidence score? Or what other values did we reject and why? And this is critical for debugging when something looks wrong, auditing for compliance, explaining decisions to stakeholders, reprocessing when you improve your algorithms, or in data quality frameworks, unification amplifies data quality issues. If your sources have bad data, your unified dataset will have bad data again. Just more consistent debate. You need to define quality checks at every stage. Schema tests. Are required fields present? Are data types correct? Or business rule checks. Is the employee count positive? Is the founded date before today? Or anomaly detection. If the number of records suddenly dropped by 50%, this is a service drop. And you have freshness checks. Is the data recent enough to be useful? Please treat your data pipeline like production code. Write tests, monitor it, set up alerts, and then you will have a clean data unification project. And let's move on to the case studies. In the first case study, I would like to mention about building a unified global company database. And here I want to maybe I can show it. By the way, can you see me? I cannot see me.
You are visible, just the one probably you are sharing no camera, but the other one we are able to see.
Okay. Here, our goal is building a unified database of companies by merging data from Crunchbase and LinkedIn, like Core Signal, to power early stage startup detection. This is like a dream goal, but it was a goal. investment prediction modeling, like an AI project, company lifecycle modeling, and lastly, market intelligence dashboards. It's just a business analysis thing. And here we will have an approach like load and explore data sources, normalize schemas, and then implement probabilistic entity resolution. And I'll show it how we are implementing it. And then handle conflicting truths. And finally, we will create the unified data set as JSON file. Yeah, here we are starting with like installation processes. I'm using here rapid fuzz for fuzzy matching. I will show it again. Here, normally we are ingesting those databases, tables like company tables, employee tables, etc., in Parquet files from Crunchbase or Core Signal, but I will make it easier for you to understand as CSV files, and I can show you maybe. For example, this is the Crunchbase company CSV. It will have company ID, name, legal name, domain. It's going like this. And we have LinkedIn companies. It's going like this. I will show them as scans. Here, we are starting with the Crunchbase records. We have just 20 records for Crunchbase. And we have a company ID as name, legal name, domain, and it's going like this. Then I'm loading the LinkedIn data. Again, I'm using a LinkedIn company CSV file. Here I have a different name with Lee company ID, and I have more data, more records in this table. And I have a description. I didn't have a description here. Now I have a new information for the entity. I need to include this new information into our unified final data set so that we can have a model like don't missing any new information. This is a key information. Okay, I'm going with the schema normalization, but first, this is the philosophy part. I'm just examining those columns one by one. What are they having? What fundings they're investing? And I'm just examining LinkedIn data again, specialties, age, country, etc. And I'm just trying to create a unified data set in my mind. And I'm going to the last stage here. I'm trying to create a schema for the final database here. Unified companies JSON. It will have a UUID. It will have name. It will have legal name. It will have domain, etc. I'm going like this. And here, after imagining the last table, I will create unified table. I'm going with the schema normalization. Here I had like mentioned about first name, last name. You need to define it like maybe full name, or maybe you need to define full name as first name and last name. Here I'm just trying to define like website as domain. I will not go into one by one, but just defining some normalization functions. I'm just defining a normalized Crunchbase. Here normally we have like 100 rows for each attribute, but here this is an example. That's why it's a bit short. And I'm using normalized LinkedIn. As you can see, I'm using different data checks like null value checks, or I'm using directly the function I have defined. And let's go. And here, I'm just normalizing both databases and seeing the normalized versions of those databases. For example, here, Crunchbase normalized, LinkedIn normalized. Now, this is a good practice. I have the same, as you can see, same columns in both the tables. Now I can just compare them one by one and match them. Here, the probabilistic resolution technique. I will implement a similarity scoring based on multiple features. Here, I will use name similarity, and I will use just fuzzy matching, by the way, like the string matching. And domain exact match, it should be the equal one. And founded year proximity, they should be very close. And the location match. There are different concerns about those similarity scoring checks, but I will explain it later. Okay. Then I'm just trying to define a compute similarity between two company records one by one, but in a like a logical way with using pandas. I will not give detail about those codes, but I will share the repositories. You can just copy and paste them. And adding location countermatch, handling variations like USA and United States. As you can see here, just the basic dictionary, but in the real project, we have a JSON file for this country mapping as like very, very long because we have like this. Sometimes Turkey defining as Turkey. Sometimes it's defining like etc. And each country has different variations. That's why I'm using a logic like this. Okay, then I'm using a weighted combination here, as you can see, 0, 4.5, and 0.30, 0.10, etc., and returning a final score. But as you can see here, I'm just getting a record and getting another record. This is a like just record-based comparisons. But I need to compute the whole database similarities. That's why I'm just creating that like score and breakdown and apply it to whole. This is just a example for record-based record. For example, in the testing, I have different OpenAIs coming from different databases, but it's obvious. That's why this is not like a hard example. But in here, I have match records across sources one by one, and we will use different thresholds. I'm just defining those functions, going one by one, and here, for all records, as you can see, we had 20 from one and 23 from one. I'm just trying to find the matches, and I have found 21 matches. And that means I will have 22 different records in the unified database. That will be unique rows. And I'm analyzing the rows one by one, as you can see here. Those are the UIDs and names, legal names, etc. Here, for example, I'm checking all the records since I would like to find what is the drawback, what is the fallback about those resolution techniques, like those similarity scores. That's why I'm checking here. For example, I have found OpenAI in both sources, Stripe for both sources, or Databricks for both sources, and going like this. And exporting the unified data set into the JSON file, and I'm just checking what are the advantages of this logic. Here, for example, I have used schema normalization, and this was critical for defining the unified data sets. And the second one, probabilistic matching, is necessary because I need to define different columns in one matches and going like this, but I would like to show you something. Let's say here I have the smallest final score weighting in found score because the final score is the column that I can miss or mismatch or miscompute the data mostly because, for example, for example, different databases can have close columns. Like, for example, I have started a company in like 2020 or 2021, but sometimes I have records like 2021 versus 20 just two, like 100 202. And here, if I just look at the absolute value of the difference, this is 1. Or I can have different names, different companies, and the absolute difference is 5. Here it's the 80,000. That's why this can lead to different mismatches in the database. That's why I'm just decreasing the weight of this. But this is the probabilistic model. And the second case, I'll not deep dive into this again and again, but here, as an example, you can just look at it as an example. And my goal is building a unified employee identity database by merging data from different people platforms in your company. You can just try to find a unified database. You can try it, and this will support zero trust access control, like access control magic, and automated onboarding and offboarding, and then detection of ghost accounts not using, and accurate organization chart and HR analytics, and then contractor versus employee visibility. You need to define a standard database for your employees. Here, I will use an approach like loading and exploring data sources, then normalizing schemas. This is the different part. Implement hybrid methodology. Let's see the hybrid methodology directly. As you can see here, we have defined first deterministic rules for high confidence matches, exact email, like here. I'm just getting the email of those columns, those records, those rows, and just comparing them one by one, exactly comparing them. And if they're different, like you can just return false 0, like a similarity score 0. But if they are same, you can just write true or 1 as a similarity score. But this is not the best practice. I just want to show it to you since I'm checking these just for analysis, data analysis. And here I am defining a probabilistic similarity with name, email, and email domain, department, job title, etc. And here, using the deterministic first, I can try to define probabilistic methodologies weights. And seeing the result, I'm just defining or updating the weights again and again, and seeing the results in a humanitarian logic. But I'm still keeping the threshold as a user input. We can just define it, we can just change it, we can just fine tune it, looking at the databases or looking at tables coming from different sources. Here I have just 54 unique examples and exporting again the unified identity graph as a JSON file. I will share the repository with you so you can just examine the databases, like the tables, the codes, and you can just overview it, and you can try to implement it in your systems. This was the case studies, and here I can take questions. If you don't have any question, I have like prepared some questions. We can go with those questions. Do you
I
have?
might ask, like,
Yes.
open up my camera, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, please.
Like, thanks for the first great speech. Like, it's a very useful, but like, still, I mean, in my previous company, like, it was the one of the challenge we were doing. Like, basically, we had a restaurants, like, we are collecting their product names, and we are trying to unify, but it has lots of variety. Like, I mean, at some point, like, let's say, make all of them uppercase, replace, I don't know, spaces with underscore, etc., etc. It's not working. And like, even what I find out, like, okay, I would consider the company I was working mid-range technology firm. There were even high-tech technology firm, like, to unify and like, to deduplicate, or based on this final 100% correct unified version, take some actions. Like, even super high-tech firms, like, end of the day, was going to work with like, some real person, like, we were sending like, this data to, I don't know, 100 people, like, from third company. They were coming with this unified version of the one. So like, do you have some more, like, I was trying to do my best to follow up, but like, do you have some advanced techniques to like, also unify this data? Okay, like, and is it some, for example, just based on what you're showing, is
Yeah,
it based on
I will
ML?
show. Yeah, I will show a library, and this is actually like complete, including different logics, and you can select different approaches as ML, as like deterministic, as probabilistic methodology. You can just install it, and you can use different versions. I will show it, for example. Yes, we have record linkage. And here, for example, I have a different database here, just the CSV file, including basic entities. And using dedupe, I can initiate different recording mechanisms. You can just select it as a like a machine learning mechanism, and it wasn't very useful, by the way, I should say it. And like, at least for our case, it wasn't beneficial, but you can just try it if you have time, and you can just dedupe with like a logic with you are giving ChatGPT two different records, two different rows from uh, different tables, and it is just comparing them. But is this like a logical situation? I'm not sure. Since in our case, we have very similar entities, and we need to increase our recall or precision score. That's why I need to prevent those false positives. This would be a crash for our project. But I would suggest to use the dupe library. It has different mechanisms, and you can just try it out.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. And one more thing, like,
Yeah.
as you stated, right, this dedupe library including various of like, the methodologies. But I am thinking just from the database person, like, a perspective. I am sometimes I'm not. And like, it was like always for us, like, even when we were junior, recommended if something possible to do all this operation, do in DB, because Python is not going to be faster than most of cases in DB, like in database level, SQL Server, MySQL, or whatever you are using. So do you know any capabilities of any current, like, a leading databases to reach to this, like, like let's say PostgreSQL, or let's go from the cloud AWS Redshift, or from the GCP, I don't know, BigQuery or something. Is there any capabilities to reach same from the database level?
Yeah, I can mention about like GCP and Google Cloud Functions. We have created a pipeline with like using first Google Cloud Storage, like Parquet files in Google Cloud Storage, and then ingesting them, like transforming them into BigQuery. And in BigQuery, we can just normalize or conduct different data transformations in the BigQuery so fast. And then I'm again using Google Cloud Function, like a Python version of the code, to move those tables into a clean environment. It can change with like according to your project, but we were using Airtable. That's why we were just moving them into Airtable again and again. But BigQuery was a good practice for this. But as far as I know, in PostgreSQL, you can just define different stored procedures like a pipeline, and you can use maybe with triggers, different triggers, so as to use those stored procedures step by step. That
Okay.
were good questions. Thank you. Thank you,
Hadi,
Hasan.
thank you. So let me read one of our guest question from Kurtuluş Mert Küçük. Let me catch the question. Yep. How much of inaccuracies of the current popular LLM models do you think can be attributed to probabilistic statistical matching resolution or data inputting methods compared to using only deterministic? It's a quite long, so maybe you can just check out and
Yeah. I'll
take
check.
the last one. Yep.
I think that would be a correct solution or more robust approach than like using just deterministic methods. But when we tried it, it was failing about filling or, as you say, imputing those missing values, since it has a logic like just LLM model. It's just checking the next word's probability and adding it like a probabilistic method again, but this is more related with strings. But in the real case, we can have very different formats of mm, data types. Like we have date time, we have just strings, we have just integers, we have just like for example, series A, series B, series C. These are companies' different investment tours, investment stages. That's why sometimes we cannot use LLM models. That's why we are trying to use probabilistic methods within the already given labels instead of deterministic methods. But you can use LLM models and try it out. It can change according to your project. And thank you for the question.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Question? No. I guess. Thank you, Mustafa. It was really great talk. I like it. I am also worked as a data engineer, so it catched me extra. So I'm really glad for joining our call and like making interesting.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Thank you, Hasan.
before the next call, like I would like to ask your 10 to 15 minutes because like our speaker from US and like we just like waiting in 44, 45. So you can just rest, like take your coffee, like and like we will be having 10-minute break. And then after that, our last call is going to happen, Emre from OpenAI, and he's going to talk about context engineering. Thank you. So see you in 10 minutes.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Emre will be joining in a couple of minutes, and then we will start with his session. Okay, yeah, I think Emre joined the meeting.
Hey, do you hear me?
Yes, welcome, Emre. Don't want to take too much time. Okay, yeah, hello. Emre will be talking about the context engineering techniques that enables agents to maintain short-term and long-term memories. He will also mention about his career path that starts from Turkey and continue with the OpenAI. And yeah, Emre, stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Let me share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes. Cool. So hi everyone. Really quick intro. I'm Emre. I'm a solutions architect at OpenAI. Today I'll briefly talk about my career path a little bit in the beginning, and then I'll talk about context engineering, and at the end we'll do a Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions at the end if you have. This can be about anything about AI agents, context engineering, and memory. So this topic is the topic that I've been heavily working on in the past couple months at OpenAI. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions if you have. Also, thank you for this opportunity. It's exciting to present here.
Good to see you.
Yeah. And then, yeah, let me quickly introduce myself again. So, yeah, right now I'm a solutions architect here at OpenAI. And previously, I was in the same role at Google. So I joined OpenAI 5 months ago, I can say. And then before that, I was at Google for 2 years. So I was under AI team, like Gemini team from under Google Cloud. So now actually I'm working on a different model, and my role is pretty similar. So a solutions architect is basically is working with customers to build AI solutions, AI agents, or AI use cases using an AI model. So my goal is basically working with their engineering teams to help them, to guide them as a trusted advisor, and then help them to build and deploy high value AI use cases to production. So this is the definition of my role. I have customers who are enterprises. That means I work with like large companies who have a mature AI ML teams. I work with their AI engineers, their data scientists to actually help them build these cutting edge AI solutions. And then I'm based in San Francisco currently. I've been living here for 5 years. So it's morning here, it's 7 a.m. I've been living here since 2021. And then my hometown is Istanbul. I'm originally from Istanbul. But then I moved to the US to do my master's. I had a master's in data science here at the University of San Francisco. And then before that, I got my bachelor's in applied mathematics from Yıldız Technical University. It's a university from Turkey. After my bachelor's, I worked in Turkey as a software engineer and data engineer for a couple of years in a telco company called Turkcell. And then I decided to do my master's abroad, and I applied to a couple different universities. And then I got accepted. And then I chose San Francisco because of, Silicon Valley, being in the center of all of these companies and startups here in the Bay Area. That was my motivation to select that path and that master's program here. And then yeah, I've been here for living here for 5 years. It's gonna be 6 year next year. Yeah, I can say I'm a local now, and I built my social network here, which was a little bit challenging in the beginning. But yeah, so besides work, I love any form of art. I'm interested in different art forms. And then I'm also writing stories, sci-fi stories, in addition to all of this AI stuff. So yeah, these are my like some fun facts about myself and my hobbies. Cool. Now let's switch to
I have a question. Are
yeah.
you actually using AI to write those stories?
Good question. I'm using AI tools to shape the stories and refine it. But ideas are coming from me. So it's a combination of both. Yeah, I'm using AI tools for writing efficiently. But I think originally ideas are coming from me. So I added a couple of them to my personal blog. But yeah, it's a really good question. So it's not like pure AI.
It was just a poke, dude. Like I had fun with the idea, like seeing sci-fi and writing
Uh-huh.
stories and AI, just
Yeah.
context.
Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, context engineering. Let's switch gears to this topic. So I don't know if you've seen it on LinkedIn or somewhere else. It's a pretty popular term these days in AI field. I see it on LinkedIn, I see it in blog posts, I hear it from my customers. So here is a definition from Andrea Karpathy, who's an AI expert in the field. So context engineering is basically the art and science of filling the context window with just right information for the next step. So it's a pretty nice and elegant definition, in my opinion. Um, and you can see it as a natural progression of prompt engineering. So a couple years ago, all AI engineers were working on like prompt engineering, like writing the best instructions, basically. But now it's evolving to context engineering. The reason is now we have agents, we have multi-step, multi-turn flows here in AI agents. That means in every step and every flow, you have to make sure that you have an efficient context, you have like a dense information with minimal tokens to make the agent work well for the next step. So it's basically the definition here. That means you might need to use some art and science type of techniques to make it work that I'll talk in the next steps. But basically, you can see it as a natural progression of prompt engineering. So if you are an AI engineer and if you're building agents, you'll see that this is the real challenge to make sure that what should I add to context? Should I add only system instructions? There will be some tool definitions, tool outputs, like some memory objects. Maybe you're just injecting like huge chunks of text from a PDF file for the next step. So you'll see that there are too many combinations in each turn, and that's why also you need to manage that type of like many combination of tokens in the context. Also, another reason is that why we need these techniques, because LLMs has like fixed context. So some models have maybe 1 million token context window, and some of them like GPT-5 has around like 280,000 tokens input context window. Since we have a limit, we also need to be selective about what to add into the context. And then also LLMs are like getting lost if you add more and more tokens and if you're closing to hit the context window limits. So this is by their nature. It's because the transformer architecture. If you add more and more tokens, you'll see that the quality is going to diminish over time in the next turns. So all of these reasons makes context engineering valuable here. And those were the reasons like of this phenomenon, like why it's happening, why LLMs are getting lost if you add more and more tokens. Cool. And what's the solution? So it's a multidisciplinary concept, as you see, context engineering. So we can talk about like prompt engineering. We can talk about state and history management. Memory is part of that. RAG and structured outputs. So these are different techniques that you can apply in context engineering, but as you see, there is not like a one solution. It's a combination of both. So that means you have to combine different type of methods and disciplines to engineer your context and make sure you're managing your context over turns efficiently. Cool. Any questions about the definition or like different techniques and methods that you see here? So feel free to jump in if you have any questions. Yeah, and then memory. So if you're using AI agents today, it can be ChatGPT, Claude, or different AI agents, or an agent that built by some another company. You'll see that there's a magical moment. And this is mostly coming from the memory type of features in the AI agent. So on the left, you see an agent. So both of them are like same agent. Basically, it's IT troubleshooting agent for software and hardware issues. So on the left, you see that the assistant is asking about, hey, how can I help you today? I'm having Wi-Fi issues. My battery dies fast. And laptop sometimes overheats, right? So there's a conversation going on. And after many turns later, probably there's some tool calls, some back and forth, some RAG type of components maybe. And then the user is asked, hey, thanks, it works now, but the red light is still blinking. How can I fix it? And the agent says again, hey, happy to help. Can you please share more? So this is a good example of a typical agent that has no memory implementation. And you see that agent is getting lost because it already collected all these informations in the past turns. It knows the device, it knows the versions, it knows all of these valuable information. But after many turns, probably context window is getting filled by all of these details of like in the next turn, you see that, hey, I don't know anything. Can you please share again? So this is a typical example of like an inefficient agent, probably. But on the right-hand side, when memory is on, under some sort of memory implementation in the agent, you see that even after many turns, the assistant remembers, right? The assistant remembers what was the issue. This is great. Wi-Fi and routerlets resolved. Let's pick up the remaining thread battery overheating. We already did that based on XYZ. Let's work on this in the next steps. So this is a pretty good example of an agent implementation in AI agents. So right example is basically the goal and the dream of AI agent builders who are building cutting edge AI agents, and it's going to feel like a really magical moment because it will remember you and it will understand you, it will know you better, even it will understand like what was your issue, what was your solution. In more advanced use cases, it will also understand your personality, the tone and language that you prefer, some personal information in the next turn. So I think this is a pretty good example and comparison, side-by-side comparison between two agents with agent memory on and off. So these techniques are still evolving. So today, even ChatGPT, you'll see that sometimes it remembers your details in the next turn or in the next chat. And the optimal way to implement the memory is really depends on the use case that you're working on. So if this is an IT troubleshooting agent, you have to remember like maybe like devices, versions, what worked and what didn't work. But if you're building a travel concierge agent for booking flights, you have to remember maybe like seat preferences, if the user is vegan or not, or if the user prefers to travel from San Francisco airport. So these are all the valuable information for that use case. But again, for this one, you have to remember different type of features. So it's pretty dependent to use case. I think this can be the one maybe important takeaway from this slide. And if you're building these type of agents. Okay, now I'll switch to context challenges. If you are an AI agent builder, you'll see and notice some challenges while you're building your AI agents. And I group it into 4 different categories: context burst, conflict, noise, and poisoning. So these are some context situations that you can come across while you're building your AI agents. So I wanted to go over all of these and share like what's happening and why it is a challenge while you're building your AI agent, right? So context burst is basically a sudden token dumps or token injections in a single turn. So what I mean by that is, let's say there's a tool call in your AI agent, and suddenly you're injecting like tons of pages of PDF files into your context. It can be a rag tool, or it can be like a separate tool that you triggered that can inject like many text and many tokens. So this will increase the total tokens in your context and cause model to lose focus because there will be like tons of information that you're adding into the specific step. It's going to increase latency and cost because your context window probably will be like 100,000 tokens or more. And then yeah, your context will bursted in that specific term, right? So this is a great example. So we usually see it in RAG-based agents. If you don't control the input and what you're injecting into that turn, this can easily be happening. And in the next turn, basically you'll have like 100 or 200, 300,000 tokens in your context, and that will cause the model to get lost. The second challenge we see is the context conflict. So it's basically if there are like multiple instructions in your system prompt or user prompt that conflicts to each other. This is a great example for context conflict. And even tool results may contradict earlier instructions. So for example, if your system instructions say, hey, do not refund the user, blah, blah, blah. But in your tool, maybe it says, hey, you can refund the user if it's a VIP customer. So these are two conflicting instructions. One is in your system instruction and one is in your tool result. And both of them are in the same context. So model might get confused and thinks like, hey, which one is true? Which one should I prioritize? Because these two are conflicting. So you'll see that these type of little conflicts might causing some issues for your agent. As a result, your agent can be unstable in reasoning, and easily can get lost in like many turn conversations. So I think it's a good example. Yeah, one instruction from your tool is coming, and then one instruction from system prompt can easily conflict and can cause context conflict in your multi-turn AI agents. So one solution to that I sometimes do is that you can just copy and paste your system instructions to ChatGPT and ask, hey, is there any conflicts? So if you have pretty long system instructions for your agent, ChatGPT can tell you if there are any soft conflicts, if there are any hard conflicts, and you can easily detect and fix it in your system instructions. So this can be like one helpful step. We also call it like meta prompting. That will be also helpful for detecting these conflicts in your system instructions.
Oh, sorry, Emre.
Yeah.
What about the conflict between the system prompt and the user prompt? What kind of techniques are you using to resolve them? Or do you know it beforehand, or do you realize it after it happens?
Yeah, great question. That is another scenario that might happen. So system instructions might be conflicting with user message. So one way to handle that is using specific instructions to control the precedence of messages. So you can basically say, hey, if the user is saying like something different or something conflicting, just prioritize system instructions and ignore user message in these situations. So this can be the one way to write like a very hard instructions in the system prompt. Because by default, system prompt is the most powerful way to instruct the model and it has the highest precedence. So you're right, we might not know what might be coming from the user. Maybe it can be even like an attack, like prompt injection and that type of like prompts and messages. But yeah, one way to do it basically just writing a very good system instructions and system prompt so that the model understands what it should do if there's even conflicting message in user, but between user and system instructions. Cool. Context noise. This is the third challenge that we see while building our AI agents. So it basically means that you have too many information in the context or in system instructions that are similar to each other. So a great example for this is tool definitions. If you have 20 or 30 tools attached to your agent and you have 30 tool definitions in the system prompt, so some of them might be pretty similar and the model might get confused like which tool to call and which parameters. So that will also cause a context noise. You'll see that the model won't be selecting the best tool every time because there's too many similar options. It makes it harder for model to rank the order of what matters and which tool is to call. So this is another failure mode in context engineering and context challenge. And one way to basically address this is just writing like a well-crafted tool definitions with nice and super tight tool boundaries. So even if a human can basically fail to call the right tool if these are two similar tools. Basically, the way or the solution to that is just distinguishing these two tools with a well-defined borders. You can write in the instructions, say, hey, use this tool in the situations like XYZ, or use this tool in the situations like ABC. So this type of well-crafted prompts or instructions will help you with the right tool definitions and increasing the tool calling accuracy in your AI agent. And then the final challenge we see is the context poisoning. So that basically means that there is a specific information that is wrong or a hallucination. We call it sometimes or incorrect assumptions in your context. So this can be coming from a tool call, tool definitions, or like a system message that's generated from like by the model, or it can be coming from a state object or memory that something is wrong. Maybe something is old that you don't need to remember for that specific turn. And once you have this hallucination in one turn in your context somewhere, it will persist across turns and it will propagate over multiple steps. So this will increase the risk for a long-running agent and autonomous workflows. And it can corrupt business logic, summaries, and plans. So it's basically a hallucination somewhere in your context in some turns. And then if you don't carefully detect that, it will basically propagate over the turns, and you'll see that it's going to impact the reasoning of your AI agent. So this is the fourth challenge that we see in context engineering. And yeah, in the next steps, we'll talk about like how to basically apply some techniques to overcome those challenges in context engineering. So before jumping into techniques, feel free to ask any questions about these challenges. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you're seeing it when you're building your own AI agent as an AI engineer. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions about all of these challenges if you have seen it in the past.
Hi, Emre.
Hi.
Ask it regarding, I believe it was maybe third one. When there is a lot of this MCP tool, like a description, etc., and it might be relevant, but we are still sending. And what if, let's say, like we have one agent, but it's really like from the hundred of the tool, like it's not like a predefined, it should select it like so basically go description and go to user like a system prompt and choose the correct one. But
Mm-hmm.
like no matter is it going linear or parallel, it should go hundred of tool and check it which is correct or not. But 100 tool means like we are like start to using current context window, and
Mm-hmm.
does it going to cause like a complexity, like or some confusion of the LLM? Because
Mm-hmm.
they saying like also you shouldn't execute definitely so much tool in one like a, but also given a so much option, would it cause some problem?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a great example for context noise. So 100 tools and tool definitions, like MCP tool definition in context is definitely too much for LLMs. So if you add all of these definitions in the context, yeah, you'll see that the model is getting confused easily to call a specific tool. Even its calling, it can be also confused about the parameters. So I think this is a typical example for context noise, which is a challenge in context engineering. So you should definitely reduce the number of available tools, MCP tools, to your agent. Maybe some of them are like pretty similar, so you can drop and combine some of them into one agent. So that is one way to basically solve this solution. You can reduce the number of available tools and tool definitions in the context. So this is one way. And then the second way is we have some approaches called like tool rag or like tool use tool. That means you might have one tool and this tool can make a decision to search on available like hundreds or even like more tools to basically select the right one. So you might have one tool definition, which is like a tool search tool, and then that specific tool can go and search the right tool based on the input, and basically find it back and attach it to the user. So Anthropic has cool features around that. They released like in the past weeks. That's around basically the same approach. But yeah, there are two ways to do it. One of them is you can just reduce the number of available tools. You can write better system instructions with less and high quality tool definitions. And the second way is basically like searching a tool and attaching the right tool back into the agent. So these can be the two techniques that you can apply.
Okay, got it. Thank you. In the second one, basically some other like a tool call or LLM tool happening without using the current agent context window, and just bringing you what is need to be used and parameters, etc. Right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
it's similar to reg search, like finding the most similar or relevant tool based on the definitions. But that also has different challenges. You have to write like a really high quality tool definitions to make the search better and increase the accuracy. And you need to write some examples. Okay, this is the input message, just retrieve this tool. This is the input message, just retrieve another tool, basically. So this is the best practices and tips and tricks for the second option.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, great question. So yeah, probably you see that in building agents, context noise, which is a common one. So I see like really good AI agents from my customers that have maybe like 50 tools connected, and agent is still working. So I want to also share that there are these type of agents or situations. If you have like really well-defined tools, like 50 tools, but these are like really different than each other, and you really define like when to call which tool in the system instructions, that can also work. But it really requires like lots of prompt tuning and prompt engineering to define it in the context window. I also saw like multi-agent systems that works well. Instead of attaching 50 tools, you can attach maybe 10 tools to one agent, like orchestrator, sub-agents connected like different set of tools. So that also works. So that's a different architecture. But again, the core point is just writing like a really good and high quality tool definitions and making sure that the model is understanding and picking up the right one. Okay, so we talked about the problem, why it's happening, the challenges that we see. Now let's talk about some techniques that we can apply. So in this presentation, I'll mostly talk about the short-term techniques, like in-session techniques. That means all of these techniques are happening in a specific session. So when your session is over, it's gone, and you'll basically create a new chat or new session. That'll be your brand new context. So here you see three options or three techniques that we can apply: context trimming, summarization, and compaction. And again, these are all happening in one single session. These are basically like context operations that you can perform during like one specific session. So the first one is trimming. It's pretty simple. So it's basically you just keep the last n messages in your context, and then you just trim the rest, right? You have older messages maybe, and you're getting close to hit the context window. You can basically trim and throw away the old messages if you think these are not important, and you can keep the last n messages in the context, and your agent can keep running in the next turns again. So this is the most easiest and basic way. So probably like some agents that you're working on already doing that. The pro is that it's super easy and fast because you're basically just deleting or removing the old messages. And con is basically you are losing some sort of information because you're just trimming out the previous turns, right? Previous messages. Maybe In this example, in this user message or assistant message, there's a helpful and valuable information for your agent for next turns, but you're basically just throwing that away. So that is the con. So if you have a long-running agent that has some information that is connected to each other, so in this IT troubleshooting agent that I showed you, probably there's some information like maybe the name of the device, the version, the location where the user is living, what happened, which steps they tried. So these are all valuable information, probably somewhere in the past turns. That means you're throwing that away. So in that type of long running and like connected tasks, this is not the best option, but it's a good start. You can implement it and see if it works for your AI agent. Maybe the old messages is not that important for you, and you'll be always keeping the last end messages. So that can be like one way to start implementing a context engineering technique. Cool. The second technique we have is summarization. So it's basically summarizing all the previous turns. So here you also still keep the last end messages, and you just take the previous steps, previous turns, and summarize it with a summarization prompt and inject it back into the context. And you can inject it in a natural way with a user message say, hey, summarize the conversation we had so far. So this will be natural in models context. And then context summary will include like all the past details, what happened, what worked, and what didn't work. So we'll talk about the summarization prompt next. But again, this is the core idea. So this is better in terms of keeping the most valuable information in the context because you're basically not throwing that away, but you are summarizing and put it back into the context. So it will also create another API call to summarize it, but you can use smaller models like Nano or Mini to create like a pretty fast summarization. But again, this will create a little bit of latency probably in the summarization turn. This will also reduce the cost of the token because you're basically compacting or condensing all of these previous turns into the summary. Cool. So this is a text-heavy slide, I know, but I want to add like important parts in summarization prompts. So it's pretty important that you tailor your summarization prompt to your use case. I think that's the most important one. And you should always include the milestones. So basically you can highlight like what's important, what happened in the previous conversations, if the issue is resolved or not, or if there should be a specific information about that specific step, right? And contradictions are important. So you have to check there is no conflicts or contradictions in the summary. You can keep adding timestamps or temporal flows because sometimes a model might need to forget an information, or maybe a user is overriding it. So maybe user said that, hey, I like dogs in the past turns, but now the user says, I like cats. I know you can like both, but this is an example for overriding basically. So sometimes you might need to override the new information or new memory that's collected from the user. And chunking is basically organizing these in titles and bullets, like in Markdown. Tool performance insights is important. You can capture what worked and what didn't work in terms of tool calls. You can add examples, control hallucination. And you can, again, like select a smaller model as a summarizer model based on the requirements and summary. So these are the important like principles when you're designing your own summarization prompt. So I definitely suggest you to tailor your prompt to your use case. So instead of just writing, hey, summarize the past conversations in a paragraph, make sure you're writing a good summary, blah, blah. So instead of just writing that very generic summarization prompt, I suggest you to definitely spend some time on the best summary, like what is the right way to summarize it, and tailor it to your specific use case. So here is an example of summarization prompt. for this IT troubleshooting, IT and hardware, software and hardware troubleshooting agent that I showed you. So you see basically like a persona, like you're a senior customer support assistant for tech devices, setup, and software issues. Compress the earlier conversations into precise, reusable snapshots for future turns. And then here you see the contradiction check, temporal ordering, and hallucination control. And you see that the valuable information that we need in the summary. So in the summary, there should be always like product and environment, reported issues, like which steps they tried and which worked, which didn't work, timeline milestones, current status, and next steps. So you can imagine that if you ask a human to summarize what happened, maybe your shift is over and your colleague or coworker is going to work on the same task. So you can imagine that AI agent as a human agent, and it's summarizing basically like what should be done in the next steps, and it's just forwarding it back to the next agent. So this is, I think, the nice way to think about it. And yeah, this is definitely like a nice, well-crafted summarization prompt for this IT troubleshooting agent. But if you're working on a different agent, let's say travel concierge, so it should be tailored to like probably like previous flights, previous hotels, preferences, I don't know, visa requirements, probably budget and all of that. So you can definitely tailor it for your own use case. Cool. Any questions about the summary and summarization? Summarizing previous turns, previous information from user and assistant. Cool. Okay. And yeah, the final technique in short term is basically the context compaction. So it basically means that removing specific messages or specific components from the tool. So this can be like tool responses, tool results, or tool output usually. And you can keep the rest in the context. So here you might see that these tool calls, which are like yellow, and these tool calls can be like pretty large. So if you're making an API call and this API returns you, I don't know, like 50,000 tokens, then in the next turn, you might need to just remove it because you already got that information in your assistant and user message. And then, yeah, here you'll see that there can be like huge JSON blobs, logs, and stack traces. That's in your context. And basically, you can just remove it and make the context more compact. So you can think about considering removing the tool results first, because these are the raw output or JSON blobs, probably, as an output from an API tool. And then you can just drop these and continue the next steps without these type of information in the context. So yeah, in that way, you'll keep it structured instead of full payloads. And you can prevent like massive tool dumps that's confusing your model. So this is the third option that you can perform in short term, in session context engineering. And then you see we have three different options. So you can apply these combinations, or you can basically start with one of them and see if it's getting better. You can run your evals and see if it's increasing the overall performance or metrics. And you can try different steps. Again, there are some pros and cons and some trade-offs between trimming, summarization, and compaction. But it's mostly experimental and it really depends on your use case. So if your agent is long running and requires like lots of different information, and these are all connected, then you can definitely consider summarization to keep the valuable information in the prompt, sorry, in the context. And if you have like a rag heavy or tool heavy agent, you can definitely consider compaction and combine compaction with summarization and trimming with other techniques. Okay, that was it from my end. I wanted to cover the definition, challenges, and solutions or approaches or techniques in context engineering. So now I'll stop and feel free to ask me if you have any questions. This can be about like anything else, like about like my customers or stuff that I'm working on, anything about AI, models, companies maybe. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions here in this session. I'm happy to answer.
There are two questions in the chat, I think.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, I can read the questions from the chat, Emre. One of them, the Yasin is asking, he is asking that, is it effective to start a new chat session by pasting an AI's previous response and asking for a revision or critique itself? Does this risk reinforcement the past errors and confusing the context?
Yeah, great question. So yes, you can. So in some cases, in some AI agents, that helps. So that is really dependent on the use case, I can say. So for example, in the previous chats, maybe it's working a task or like some issue, and maybe it solved it itself. But maybe in the next chat or new chat, it's going to continue working on the same stuff, or there'll be some valuable information in that. So in that specific use cases, you can definitely add a summary, probably like summary of the previous chat, and keep it there and continue working in the new chat because there will be some useful information. But if there is not available information, or maybe it solved a task that is not related to with the new chat, then you don't need to inject that summary in the beginning of the session. So it's really dependent on the use case itself. And you should think about, hey, is there any valuable or meaningful information in the previous chat history that will help the user in the brand new chat? So if the answer is yes, you should definitely consider adding these type of information. Summarization is usually a good start. You can add the summary of the previous turn. You can say, hey, you're a helpful agent. Here is the previous conversation from the user. There might be some valuable details. Make sure that you keep it in context, blah, blah. So you can basically write like a nice prompt and inject the previous summary. But the summary also should be like very well crafted. And you're right that it can reinforce mistakes or context issues. So you should be also careful about what you're injecting in the beginning of the session, because it can confuse the model, and the model can basically value that more in the beginning. So there's like a little bit, how to say, like balance to do that. But again, you can definitely consider the use case. If there's a useful information in the previous chat that can help the next chat, you can consider adding like a slight summary in your prompt.
Okay. So he says he asked for the long conversations, and Yasin says in the long conversations, the context starts drifting and the response will get slower. That's why he is preferring this technique.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, that is the reason. Yeah, in long conversations and long running agents, you'll see that, yeah, context starts drifting, context starts getting crowded. All these challenges are happening probably in these long conversations and long contexts. And yeah, one impact is response gets slower because you're sending longer context, like much more tokens to the model, and it creates like latency. The cost is going to increase, and all of that is happening basically in that specific scenario.
Mhm. Okay, so Umut is asking, is the distillation feature of GPT 5.1 model a context feature?
Yeah, so distillation is basically like a model feature because you're basically distilling a model from a teacher model. So it's more about like a way of condensing the previous intelligence capabilities into a smaller model. So I wouldn't say it's a like a context engineering feature, it's more about like the capabilities of the model itself, because your context is same context window, but the model is a little bit different. Uh, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the model or distilled model is going to perform better in long context or long running tasks. So it's more about the model's intelligence capabilities.
Okay. So another questions from Lakshmikant, if sorry if I spelling correctly. So is context engineering beneficial, applicable to only for the engineers that build the agents, or does this needs to be educated to business users who utilize these agents?
Yes. So yeah, that's basically for AI agent builders. So context engineering is very beneficial and applicable if you are an AI engineer or you're building your AI agent. So on the user side, I don't think there is much that's important for user, because the user is always going to expect to have like a nice experience from an agent, and there is not much that they can do. So if you're an AI agent, probably you know how to write better prompts, how to give more context and valuable context, of course. But if you're an average user using ChatGPT or another AI agent, you basically just type and try to get your answer, and you expect that the agent remember stuff. So that means that they don't care about like what technique it's applying, what's happening under the hood, and all of that. So context engineering is mostly beneficial for engineers that are building agents. So you should consider these techniques to build a cutting edge agent, but user is not going to think about that. Probably isn't going to understand what's going on under the hood, if there's memory or not. Because think about like you're talking with a human, and human memory works so seamless, and you don't even like see what's happening in their mind, right? So I think that should be the direction and the experience that we should aim for as an AI agent builders.
Yeah, but doesn't decluttering help even as a user? Like, for example, I try to use ChatGPT for coding, and it isn't as helpful as Claude, for example. And I think that Claude is more programming oriented and is just better at following code and doing stuff faster and better. But on ChatGPT, if I enter 2 or 3 prompts, he's getting lost. Like I always have to use short snippets of code.
Yeah, so again, this is on the model side and context engineering and memory stuff on the model layer and application layer. So the difference you're seeing might be happening from many different reasons. So it can be because the model intelligence itself, it can be the model context, it can be the trimming, summarization, or all of the other techniques if they're applying it under the hood. Yeah, the difference can be coming from different ways, and you're basically using short snippets because you know how it works. But an average user probably is not going to know like what even a token is or what the context is. So that's why I'm saying like it's mostly on the AI engineering side to build like more efficient models or experiences while using the models.
All right, cool.
Okay, so another question. Recently got to introduced token-oriented object notation. This is I heard first time. What is your take on in this new term for LLMs?
Yeah, this is also my first time seeing token-oriented object notation. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have too much information um, on that. So, but I'll definitely check it after this call. But for now, I have like pretty limited information.
Mhm. Okay. So another question from Umut. Which method you find generally successful in benchmarking the results of such trials? Because the way we try different inputs to LLMs is totally blurry and heuristic.
Yeah, so which methods I find generally successful in benchmarking the results? Yeah, so it's basically evals, like AI evals question in general. Um, Yeah, it's a whole topic on itself, like evaluating AI agents, turns, single turns, multi-turns, and I love that. But
I
yeah,
think the
you're right.
correct answer is it depends
Yeah,
in
that's a
most of
very short
the AI
answer.
question.
That's the very short answer. Yeah, so it depends. And you're right. So it's a it's not deterministic. So it's not an if-else machine. It's undeterministic. It can be blurry and heuristic, as you said, Umut. Um, so yeah, evals, I think we can break it into two buckets. So one of them is human feedback. So you can evaluate an agent by yourself or by another human to make sure that the response is good or the agent is working well or not. So this is one and the fastest way probably. And the other way is basically using another LLM to judge as a judge basically. So you can use an LLM to write an eval. You can let them to evaluate basically and score the output. You can define your own metrics, your own scores, and make that LLM work and basically judge the output. So this is a second bucket we call LLM as a judge type of evals and evaluations. You can write like a nice rubric. You can define what is good, what is bad in your AI agent, and let this LLM basically judge or score your application. So we can talk a lot more about this second bucket. And single turn is different, and multi-turn is different. Tool calling accuracy is a different thing that you can evaluate and measure. If the agent is calling the right tool, if the agent is calling the right tool with right parameters, um, like task completeness, upvote, downvote. So all of these are different metrics that you can define and run. But the whole idea is basically just using another LLM to test the agent and evaluate the output of the agent.
Mhm. Are you keeping data set like question and answer, question and the correct answers for evaluating your results? Maybe human generated or maybe LLM generated or maybe semi-automated like that data set created?
Yeah, so we call it golden data set usually. So it's golden because it's really hard to create that data set. Usually, yeah, we have a couple hundred examples with the input and the expected output, which we label as like correct or grand truth. And these outputs,
How you create it? How do you create the correct? Is it semi-automated, LLM automated, or reviewed from by human?
it's all of them. So it can be created by humans. If a human has time, they can sit down and basically write all these expected outputs using human intelligence. I think this is the one way to do it, but it usually takes time. So writing like 200 or 300 examples is not easy. The second way to do it is you can generate with an LLM and review by a human. So this is also another technique that we use. It's faster because humans are better at reviewing instead of just generating something from scratch. Or you can trust an LLM and generate the expected output and just use it. So all of them are possible. The first one takes more time. But I definitely suggest like creating maybe with an LLM and reviewing by a human and giving like a one more pass. And then you can just use this golden data set for your evals in the next turns.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay, I think we don't have any other question.
I have one, but
Sure.
it's more aimed at the domain per se as a software engineer than AI. So about me, I'm on track to finish my bachelor's degree in informatics next year. Now I was lucky enough to catch an internship in the domain, so I'm working with React and Next. And AI is obviously very helping both in learning and completing my tasks faster. Um, the problem is that as many companies today, they are downsizing, and I don't think any interns will be transitioned into employees as, what's happening around. My question for you is, what master's degree domain should I look into in order to have a more stable job perspective in the future?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So I also see it here too in Bay Area in Silicon Valley that yeah, like near grads, I also received that type of questions, even from my brother is asking similar stuff. So, I think my suggestion is that doing maybe like a master's that will also help your soft skills in addition to technical skills can be a good option because coding you can use like AI tools, AI models for coding as of today, and it's getting better and better. So natural language to code, I think it will get better for sure. But what you need is basically understanding like engineering perspective, like system design, and all of that. But plus also like adding some soft skills, maybe even like customer facing skills can be valuable, can differentiate you and your skills in the future. So maybe yeah, you can consider a master, maybe a combination of these two type of skills, like soft and technical skills, instead of just only focusing on like coding type of programs. So you can consider even that type of roles in the future. But yeah, again, as I said, you'll see that all of these models are getting better in three bench metric. So like this week, like Cloud Opus 4.5 Opus is pretty good in coding tasks, for example. And then there'll be other models like Gemini 3, GPT models coming and all of that for like that will basically increase all these coding type of tasks. But yeah, my basically suggestion would be like combining soft and technical skills and improving all of these skills even like before the graduation. If you're planning to do a master's, then yeah, you can definitely consider like good combination of these two type of skills.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the questions. Okay, I think we don't have any other question, Emre. Thank you so much for joining this session. So you joined very early in your holiday, so that's why it was so valuable for us. Thank you for contributing so much to this our community. So hope to see you in our future events as well. Yeah, and then happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Nice to present to you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. But yeah, and then have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you
the
for
all
hosting.
participants. Yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, Furkan.
Bye bye.
Bye.